So sitting here in Amsterdam on a beautiful sunny Friday afternoon. Do you like Amsterdam?
Oh, very much. I've been coming to Amsterdam for years. Before we met Papa G and afterwards. And I love it. It's beautiful. But I love the Dutch people. I like their spirit and their willingness to question.
So, what is it about Dutch people? Are they uplifting? Or?
They're energetic. You know, every place has its flavor, and I have to say I like the people finally every place I go, especially in the context of satsang, because we speak of the most important things and people's hearts open. But the friendliness of the Dutch people and their willingness to be playful and also challenging.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice combination.
Have you noticed a change in, let's say, for the last 5 or 10 years, what people ask, or are the questions always the same?
Well, I think the issues are always the same, but what happens is, as people get familiar with spiritual questions, either the questions go deeper and it reveals a more subtle level of understanding, or the questions just get conceptual. People may know what the right questions are to ask, and that may not be the real question for them. But that's, I think, what I was pointing to about the Dutch people. It feels like they're willing to ask the wrong question if it's the real question. And that's really important, because otherwise it just becomes more conditioning.
So how can you recognize the difference between a real question and a question that you just got out of a book? Or?
Yeah. Well, one is alive. The real question is alive, and it also may generate some fear because we're afraid of the real answer. And it's something that we're involved in with our life, not just our minds. You know, books are wonderful. I'm a book reader. I love books. I write books. But finally, it is our direct experience that counts. And so a real question, inquiry is what I call it, because it comes from Ramana, really turns your attention inward into home. Whereas what we could call a wrong question or a false question just turns your attention into the spin of the mind and into anxiety and frustration. For instance, why is usually how a wrong question starts.
When the question starts with why.
Yeah. Very useful questions in lots of areas, why something happened, so that we can learn and not do it again. But when we are speaking of discovering the truth of who we are, then why? Why am I suffering? Why did my parents treat me this way? Why is the world like this? It just leads us into theory. And so we have many reasons, and some may be correct and some may be incorrect. But if we're willing to ask deeper questions, what is here now? How can I live my life in truth? Then those are questions of discovery rather than questions as an attempt to manage life or handle life.
Or satisfy the mind.
Yes, satisfy the mind, which is the management.
So if I start my question with what, that will be a better starting point?
Well, I'm happy to play with why.
Okay.
Because we can always take why to the deeper levels.
Let me ask a scary question. What am I?
Well, what do you mean when you say I? What's the I pointing to?
Well, this sense of being, this sense of being alive.
Yes. That's what you are. It's being. Beingness, being alive. So if we are willing to start there with this question, what am I? And then as you did, you took the question inward, this sense of being alive, this life, then we can actually turn our attention to life. This life that is in us. So we are life forms, different life forms all around. But present in all life form is life. And as life is actually discovering itself in you, in this particular life form.
So you could say, I'm life.
I've been saying that lately. You are life, is what I've been saying. And then, because from that, then we can ask the question, find out what comes and goes. What comes and goes? What is always here? We know that forms come and go. Our life forms will come and go. Thoughts come and go, emotions come and go. But life doesn't come and go. Life was here before our particular life forms, and it's here after them. And when we recognize this ever-present quality of life itself, and we all know life is here, but it is so obvious and apparent that we overlook the depth of it and the vastness of it and the presence, the conscious presence of it. So those would be questions I would give back to you.
And I go into a why question.
Okay.
Why is there life?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, this is a good example of what happens to why questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I could give you my belief in that or my view in that or some kind of, and that could change day by day. But I know in a moment of experiencing life and the vastness of it and myself as life and you as life, that in itself answers that question.
Yeah. Well, so I asked this question once before and someone said, why not?
Yeah, that's the best answer.
Yeah. But also someone said it's God playing hide and seek with himself.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, they're beautiful, poetic metaphors. I mean,
of
Lila, the play of God.
Yeah. Or love looking for itself.
Yeah.
Could you?
Finding itself.
Yeah. Could you say everything is God in disguise?
That's a big question. Certainly at the source, everything, and when you say God, I'm hearing life, because to me that's what's omnipresent rather than anyone's idea of God. So at the source there's life, and then from that source there are permutations of life, and some are perfect and some are imperfect, and some are good and some are bad. So yes, at the source.
But
should we close this door?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's close the door.
This one.
This one.
So, do we have any influence on what life brings us?
Well, we certainly have influence on our response to what life brings us. I think it's very skillful to assume that what appears is choiceless, which is not a New Age view. New Age views say more that you choose this, you chose your parents. But I do accept that there is profound capacity to choose, and that's the relationship to what appears, whether that's your parents or your genetics or circumstances of the world. In a moment of being willing to choose, to fully respond to that, then we get into the play of choice and choicelessness as alive, rather than just theoretical.
Because some hardcore Advaita or non-duality fanatics just say, sit back and relax, there's no such thing as free will, everything is exactly as it should be.
Yeah. Well, I'm not an Advaita teacher. My teacher, Papaji, never mentioned the word Advaita to me, so I didn't even know what it meant until I came back and people said, well, you're an Advaita teacher, and I kept saying, no, I'm not, so I don't have a particular dogma. I can only speak from my own experience. And my experience is there's much that is completely choiceless. And there is this capacity as a human being with a reflective consciousness to actually choose, even if it's choosing what is here, that in that way we participate. Or refuse to choose, which is another choice, of course.
So it's the response
Yes.
to the situation.
Yes, to life.
The response to life.
Yeah.
Was I ever born?
Well, you as life were never born. You as the identity in this life form was, you were born and you will die. So when we say I, it actually means many things, or points to many things. It points to the universal life that was never born and not subject to death. And also points to this individual life form that is born and dies. So in that sense, it is truly non-dual. It includes both what is universal and both, and also what is relative. So
that almost sounds like there's two of me. There's life and there's me.
there's one of you, and within that one appears this experience, this sense of being, you said. So there's sensory perceptions in this. When these senses are finished, those senses will be no more. But the truth of you, the source of you, life, remains.